Hello, everybody. We're back again, and it's episode 9. Graham?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
9.
6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah.
CJ keeps mocking me, but I'll leave it. It's fine.
Listen, I'm the playful one. He's serious. I would not need to. But anyway, yeah, so we've got another guest, and we're going to have Graham just, give a little. Oh, are you going to give some background? Intro?
Now we'll let him give his own
Oh,
background.
okay. Oh, you don't know him that well. But
yeah, so glad to be back and with episode 9. And like Shane said, we have a guest today. This is Mr. Anthony Baatjies. And we go way back to the beginning of time, our time. So I know Anthony for many years. Really excited to have him on the program. I think when we started, he watched a few of the podcasts and he made really cool comments. And then I spoke to Shane and I said, you know what, this guy's doing amazing stuff in the community and would be a really great add-on to bring on as a guest to have a conversation with. And that's why we brought Anthony in. But I'm not going to take a lot of his limelight. I'm going to let him speak through who he is and give us some background. So Anthony, thanks for being with us, man. So tell the people who you are. Yeah, go for it.
Thank you, Graham. So my name is Anthony Baatjies, and yeah, I'm a married man for 12 years now. Going strong with one wife or one wife.
Is that what you say?
So yeah, I'm married to one wife, 2 kids. My daughter Kim is 12. My son Antonio is 7 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lekker, man.
And yeah, so basically that's me. I also work for an organization called Cold Youth. And I am the field coordinator for the Western Cape, managing the Western Cape, the program that's basically running in the Western Cape.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, so in terms of, you didn't really touch on like where you stay and some of your background, the early stages of your life. And I think one of the things that we're very passionate about with this channel is that we want to bring through stories that will uplift and inspire young people from our communities that I think need to just have a different take, man.
Yes.
A different take on life than the general things and that can break through the stereotypes. So I think if you can tell us a little bit about your upbringing and things like that, that'll be awesome as well. Yeah.
So Anthony grew up in Mitchell's Plain,
Yeah.
small place called Rocklands. That's where I was born, basically. Grew up with my grandmother and my grandfather. My mom was still young when she gave birth to me, so then they took me on as their son. Till the divorce happened, we moved to Portland in Mitchell's Plain, and yeah, that's where I did most of my childhood, if I can call it in that sense. And then moving just as I was moving into my teenage years, I was then moved by my grandmother because the place that we stayed we didn't have anymore or was sold, and then I had to move to my mom in Khayelitsha.
Okay.
So this young boy from Mitchell's Plain, moving to Khayelitsha, and I'm still staying in Khayelitsha since '99. Yeah, so the move happened in '99.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So Anthony, I remember just vaguely, chatting about you, and you said part of your growing up, there were decisions you made, and
Yes.
there was peer pressure.
Yes.
And give us a little bit of a background of Anthony, as being in the developing stages of his youth.
Yes.
And just a bit of that journey, just so that also, because like Graham was saying, we try to get the stories
Yes.
where people that might be listening can relate to, might find themselves in that situation.
Yeah.
So because you obviously pulled yourself out of there. But tell us about your experiences growing up in Mitchell's Plain when you were younger, and then also moving into Khayelitsha and how that became a challenge to you and yeah.
Okay, thank you, Shane. So basically, for me, it was the move to Khayelitsha wasn't a one that was like volunteer me saying I'm moving because I want to move there. You know, it was because I didn't have a choice. It was the circumstances that we were in at the time that led to the move to Khayelitsha. And for me, I think I've got the saying that I normally say is that move it changed my life. It made me the person that I am today. And as time goes on, we'll talk more about, you know, me and what that happened. But for me, as that happened, I moved into Khayelitsha. It was difficult, you know. This colored boy, you know, moving into a location full, and you know, I would say 99% of the community is black people, you know. It was difficult, it was scary, you know. I did understand the language there and there because my father is he's also mixed. So he's mixed black, but originally from the Eastern Cape, a small town called Monfrey. And then they moved to Mitchell's Plain. That's when he and my mom, you know, so they come from the Eastern Cape speaking the language and doing traditions and the culture, you know, from they call them the Hlubi clan. You know, so they normally did that Xhosa Hlubi, you know.
Okay, so you had some introduction
yes,
of the culture
and the language. So basic words I did understand, like what's your name, where do you stay, how old are you, and stuff like that, you know. But I couldn't speak the full language. So it was this colored boy and going into Khayelitsha, and you know, knew 5% of the language and or just the basics, and you know, I had to really just find myself and find, you know, and adapt to my current situation, because as a child you don't have choices, you know, your choices. What is laid out for you there.
I mean, I like you said, Anthony, early on, it was 1999 when that happened.
Yes.
And I mean, just from a cultural perspective, and for me, it's always like, you know, in the South African context, in the Cape Town context, you know, there's race divides, and we're coming out of apartheid, and now we're still fresh out of it. So those divides are still very real. You know, and we live in the place where you got the so-called whites, the so-called colors, you got the so-called blacks, you know, and there's divisions between those cultures, those races. You know, so how did you experience going from a colored community, and you know, if you're gonna be you know, based on how people look, you look colored.
Yes.
You know? So now you not only are you colored, but you're coming from a colored community and you're moving into Khayelitsha, which is a township quite close by, because Mitchell's Plain and Khayelitsha is like
next to each other.
Road separates them, right? So they're basically in the same area. But the culture differences are huge. How did you get received? How was that you know, transition from that like for you?
Funny thing, Graham, as you've just mentioned, was, you know, I was like almost like a celeb, you know, in the community, because
the trophy friend.
you know, this colored boy that you know my peers at that time were not used to, you know, having colored people staying with them. And you, as you've mentioned, like my appearance comes across colored, you know, and even your language and the way your tone of how you pronounce and you're speaking, it's colored, you know. And as I said, I know only the basics, and I used to reply in English. You know, so where do you stay? I stay there. Okay, what's your name? And you're speaking about, you know, that it was difficult because my name is Anthony. So I was like, my name is Anthony. Woo, Anthony. So, and then one said, Andrew. And I was like, because it seems you know how to say Andrew. And the funniest thing, my name, then I've got like a nickname. That's Andrew.
Interesting.
In Khayelitsha, you know, so many people know me as Andrew, and they don't know my biology.
That's a real story.
So it was so I was everyone. I always had a lot of people, you know, around me, and it was weird, you know, but in a good way, because I always had friends. I never,
fascinating.
You know,
that's great, because like I love hearing that, because that speaks to the idea of acceptance. You're in this community, and yes, you're different, so people are maybe fascinated by your presence. They're curious, but they never shunned you. And like it's weird for me, because like being in Mitchell's Plain, like there's stigmas attached to how people think of certain things, and there's like this hierarchy of the whites are the top, and
Yes.
the colors are below, and then the blacks are below that, right? So colored people might have not looked at black people in the same way coming into their community.
As
They
long as
would
they
have been
accepted you,
treated less than. You know what I'm saying? Whereas where your experience coming into Khayelitsha, there was almost an immediate acceptance, curiosity,
Yes.
and they didn't make you feel outside, you know. And for me, it's a big thing to be made to feel outside, because if you are accepted, you are able to build your confidence. You're able to feel better about yourself. You're able to, you know, just operate more efficiently in the world. But when you're worried about your identity,
Yes.
being mistreated or shunned or
Yes.
rejected, it affects you, you know, psychologically, and your self-confidence as well. So kudos to those guys that made you feel
Yeah.
accepted, because that's a big deal, man.
Yes.
You know, and so yeah.
Yeah, no,
And I know you went and live in Khayelitsha,
Yes.
but did you change schools as well? Or which
Yeah.
school were you? No, were you still in school in Mitchell's Plain?
So the move to Khayelitsha,
Yeah.
it happened when I was about in grade. That's now, or I'll say it in our time, in standard. It was in standard 3, standard 4.
Okay.
That's when the move happened, 99. And I was still schooling in Mitchell's Plain.
Yeah.
So I will still travel from Khayelitsha to Mitchell's Plain
okay.
just to attend school. Yeah.
So you had two identities.
Yeah.
So you were colored and
Black. But speaking about my school, funny enough, you know, and you spoke about how people will treat you, you know, in a certain community.
Yeah.
And I remember it was difficult for me to tell my friends,
disclose it,
yes, at school, to say, where do I stay now?
okay,
You
okay,
know.
okay,
So
okay.
I then because I'm just thinking my friends at school, they will then make, yay, Khayelitsha, onder die hokkies tussen die bome, you know, stuff like that, you know.
So they'll degrade
Poor,
you.
yes, you poor, your
Yes.
circumstances, you know, and you know, you stay in the community, because Khayelitsha at that time was known, everyone in Khayelitsha stays in a shack. You know, and black people, they known as staying in shacks, you know.
yes,
So immediately, you know, so for me it was, I always hid that away from them.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
even I'm sure some of them will, if they watch the podcast, they will be like, hey, but you never told us that you stay there. Because it was just that, you know, I didn't, as you mentioned, Graham, I wanted to feel accepted. And they made me feel, you know, I am accepted in that community. And it was difficult to speak to it, you know, to the colors, because how black people were seen and being, you know, they are lower than colors, you know, and it's just.
I mean, that gets me. It gets me because, like, we from Mitchell's Plain. All of us have touches with Mitchell's Plain, and the fact that people would have had that sort of stigma attached, the fact that you couldn't say that you're staying in Khayelitsha because you were worried of being made fun of. It's sad, you know, but it's also a very real reality. And I'm not going to pretend like that's not the case, because that is the case. And those type of ways, and I don't know how much it resonates still today, and I hope that it doesn't. I hope that those type of things have been, you know, weaned out.
Yes.
And if they weren't, then I say, we need to do something about that. Like, people need to stop. Like, we neighbors, you know, we people that living in we're in the same community, in the same town. Yes, there are cultural differences, but we need to be able to embrace one another without degrading each other for whatever ideas we have in our mind, you know?
Exactly.
So hectic, man. Yeah.
So my high school then, I had to do in Khayelitsha.
Okay.
Very funny. So the reason why is my parents didn't have the funds, or my mother didn't have the funds to constantly send me to Mitchell's Plain, because it's
travel.
it costed a lot of money, you know, up and down transport. It was, sometimes it will be taxi in and out, sometimes I will use bus, sometimes my mom will get me a transport that will pick me up, and sometimes the transport won't get paid, and then I cannot go with transport because of, you know, the circumstances wasn't nice that time. So I did my school in Khayelitsha at a school called Chris Hani Secondary School.
Okay.
Chris Hani, it was Chris Hani High that time. And funny, it was my first language at school was Xhosa.
Okay. Yo.
Coming from Mitchell's Plain, my first language in my class was Afrikaans.
Yeah.
You know. So now my first language is Xhosa. My second language was, so I did 3 languages.
Yeah.
That was still in our syllabus that time, 3 languages and 3 other subjects. So my first subjects and my first language was Xhosa, second language was English, and my third language was Afrikaans.
So it's like a complete switch and an add-on.
Yes, and an add-on.
But was your course fluent by that time?
No, I was struggling. So what I used to do was we will help each other. So because I'm colored and I come from an Afrikaans school, so I'll get the cleverest child in Xhosa, then I'll be your buddy. So I will help you with your Afrikaans work and you help me with your Xhosa work, you know. So we'll do each other's homework. So that's basically, and that's also because staying there, and that's as a young, you know, there's this concept as a young person, you easily catch on because your mind is still developing and you are learning. And that's how I started
and
learning
you were
the
accepted.
language. And I was accepted. That made it easy.
So you could make connections that help you, that aided you.
And I was the only colored boy in my school. You know, only colored boy. Even the principals that time said, "Hey, we don't know what we're gonna do with you, but it's fine. You can come. You can come." Yeah, but I did my school there till I think grade 11. That's standard 9. And I didn't finish school. The reason why I didn't finish school was, as I've said, it was, you know, circumstances at home wasn't nice. My grandma also then had to, because we didn't have a place anymore in Mitchell's Plain to stay that we can call a home. So she also had to move to Khayelitsha. And we all started staying together again. You know, where we had a 1-bedroom shack where we started, me and my mom and my sister. We stayed there. And then when my grandma came to Khayelitsha, then she bought like also a shack, but on a piece of property, on a piece of land. So at least we had like divided, but I still shared, you know, I still had to share like space with my mom, like a room with my mother. My grandmother will take another room, and you know, my aunt also eventually came to stay with us. So it was just this big family.
You had a journey, bro.
So I didn't finish school because of my circumstances. I finished in the middle of my grade 11, standard 9 that time. I had to leave school because my mom just gave birth to my brother, and things wasn't financially okay at home. So there was opportunity for me to get a job, and that was my first job. And you know, I was doing carpentry. So we will do the roofs and windows, but it was building a mosque, you know. So it was, it's really funny how that was my first job, you know. And it's like a blessing also in disguise to say, you know, my first job was building a mosque. So ever since grade 12, I didn't finish my grade 12, but finished, had to stop and then provide for my family, you know, because of circumstances.
But Anthony, this is it's not a situation that is isolated. In poorer communities, this is a lot that happens where kids can't finish school, and it's not because they don't want to. It's that there's no income in the house. I mean, do I keep going to school and there's no food in the house? Or do I go out there to try and help provide and to put food on the table for the family? And I'm always saying this. I've had chats with tons of people, and a lot of our community members or kids would be at the Olympics today. But because after matric, most of their sports happen during their school years. After matric, there's no development programs for them. What captures them? What allows them to still earn something and still train professionally? So what happens? A kid finishes school and there he's got to go work. So what happens to that sport and that talent? To the wayside. So a lot of what's happening in our communities today is because of things, of programs that's not there. The countries that are doing well in sports are your developed countries. So that is not that we're not good at certain things. It's just the circumstances. So when you see a person and the guy says, I think unfortunately I couldn't finish school, you can't look down upon them. In your situation, you had to help provide there. You guys
and that's often the story.
The story.
Like you just said now,
and you actually were responsible in the way you thought, you know, and because I mean, looking at you today and looking at all the accolades that you do have behind you, you left school, but you still had a plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
You didn't have a what you had. It wasn't really a setback.
Yeah.
You just took a step back to move steps forward.
And it could have, in
Yes.
a lot of cases, it could have, like you said, that this is a story that's very common in our communities, and it could have been a setback, and it has been a setback for some people, you know, but the realities of your circumstances sometimes doesn't enable you to have the luxury, like you were just saying, in other developed places, they can do whatever they want, they have the finances, they have the sponsors, they have the resources to do that. Whereas within our communities, when a certain point in your life comes and your parents are struggling and, you know, and you see this and you're the eldest on top of that, you have very little
Gotta step up.
options. You gotta step in and you gotta help, you know, because that's a common story, you know, but doing that doesn't detract from the sacrifices that your parents made, that they did for you, even so, you know, but being in that position and doing what you need to do in that moment is applaudable, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you stepped up, and that shows a level of responsibility that a lot of young people had. But it doesn't end there, does
Yes.
it? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't end there. Because you did make sacrifices. Can you tell us what happened with you when you started working and where it took you from there? Yeah.
No, thank you, Graham. I think so. For me, you know, I didn't, as I said, I didn't finish my grade 12 at that time, because when I started working, it should have just been like a school holiday thing, you know, just to support, you know. But then it continued because now the money that I'm bringing in is making a difference. You know, it's putting food on the table. You know, my mom wasn't working at that time, so that income then, you know, made a big difference. But that for me didn't determine my future. You know, and for any other young person out there, don't let your circumstances determine where you want to be and who you want to be in life. It doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, what you don't have or what you have. It depends on you as a person, you know, what you make out of it. I'm standing here and having a conversation, and for me this is an opportunity to give back, you know, and to say that I made it. You know, for you guys out there, you have the same time as everyone else. You have the same opportunities. Yes, there is others that are a bit more privileged than you, but you have the same opportunities to say that opportunity might not be as it is for you, but I can still make something out of the small that I have. You know, and that's what I did. I started small, you know, and after that, I've worked myself up, you know, I started working at Khayelitsha building the church. Then I moved over to Spa in Tukai. I was like, you know, assistant chef, helping with hot dogs, cooking, making hot dogs outside. Then moving over to a cold storage facility. But then I got the opportunity because it comes back again on the person that you are. I like when I was young, and it also, you know, in Mitchell's Plain there was, and you spoke about opportunities, and what, you know, people and what the young people do have. In Mitchell's Plain, yes, there was opportunities, but the culture and the mindset wasn't. Young people wanted opportunities. You know, it's rather let's play outside, let's do naughty stuff. You know, compared to grabbing that opportunities. And you spoke about it, Graham, to say it's like two communities that's next to each other. Like it's a throne's throw away from each other. It's like just one road, and it's not even a big road. It's like one 2-lane road. That separates these two communities.
I mean, Khayelitsha is actually just an extension of
Mitchell's Plain. Exactly.
Mitchell's Plain is the extension of Khayelitsha.
Yes.
It's supposed to be like different worlds.
Yes, exactly. So what I then did, I then made use of the opportunities that was given to me. You know, I started doing martial arts when I was in Khayelitsha for 3 years. Then, you know, people won't say I did this or this was part of things that I did. But when they look at me now, they were like, sport you played was rugby because of my body, you know. But I did also ballroom and Latin dancing, you know, for a number of years. And Yo, bruh. I will walk salsa. No, true that. Yeah.
I can't jazz. I can try, but can you jazz, Shane?
Are you gonna teach him?
Can you
Anytime.
jazz?
I can't jazz. I can jazz. There's a difference. You can jazz.
And you
He
jazz.
knew how to jazz.
Yes.
Because he did it.
Salsa.
Yes. Salsa.
I always jazz. Especially on a Sunday. It wasn't too hot.
Lekker. Ako ilarij drukjes.
No, but check it. A colored person can jazz on any song. Whether
True that, yes.
Those TikTokers, they're jazzing people. You're good, eh? Yes, the dance.
That's culture, is rich.
Yes.
In our-
So that's what I did, and then I got an opportunity to, there was this organization in Khayelitsha that started, and they were giving back. They were doing sexual and reproductive health. They were specializing on that, and they had a female clinic. And for me, because of my background of dancing and also karate, we then also joined the gym.
Okay.
So they had the gym, and we were part of the instructors.
Okay.
And then being recognized for the work I did and what I did in the community, I got an opportunity, within that organization to work for them. And I think that's when my life changed, because in a sense, with my circumstances, I could have easily be a lost case, a lost generation. Easily. I could have easily fall into gangsterism, into drugs, easily, because that's
And just blame all your circumstances
Exactly.
on that.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, the circumstances that you had, it could have been a blamable situation.
Exactly.
You understand,
Exactly.
but you rose above it.
Yes. And I think for the younger generation also, it's what you make, out of the opportunities. Yes, when I was in primary school, I got arrested for trespassing at the other school and violating the school. It's because of peer pressure. I was also peer pressured to being part, almost like joining a gang, but it didn't really happen. To be part of a gang. But I think it's also, as I've mentioned, that shift from Khayelitsha to Mitchell's Plain. From Mitchell's Plain to Khayelitsha. And it was just God's plans for me, man. To say, my son, if you stay in Mitchell's Plain, your future won't look nice. I'll move you. And it was difficult. It wasn't easy for me, but again, it's what I made out of it. And that brought me to where I am today. Yes, I didn't finish my grade 12. But I'm a student from Stellenbosch University. I completed my degree
Still
at
had the
Stellenbosch.
plan.
I still had the plan, and it's also because other people also saw it within me.
Yes.
People said to me that time to say, Anthony, this is not you. You better than this. I remember that move, and I was still in school. That move that I made, just that beginning phase. I started to smoke cigarettes and dacha. My parents doesn't know that because I hid it from them. I will do it with other people, and my parents was because my granny and my mother worked, so I'll do it after school. Lekker boutje, gaan slapen, come back. They won't know anything. You make sure that smell there's nothing. Put that clothes.
You're just fooling yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it was. I could have easily continued with that and fall into that
and go deeper into it.
Exactly, but I think it was also the people around me, that believed in me and that saw that I'm bigger than this.
Anthony, just listening to you, I know your story, your full story. God changed your life.
Yes.
But in changing your life, He changed thousands of lives. Because you've touched people that's touched other people. So He used one person.
Yes, exactly.
And your circumstances you have, I know, looking at it back then when you were going through it, it was gold. You needed to have gone through that to become the person you are today.
Yes.
And you have a rich story. And you have to embrace that wherever you go and shine the light upon that, because people will have one little challenge and not be able to face it. Look at your multiple challenges that you had. And like I always say, whenever you're meeting people, you are in an interview, you did your ballroom dancing,
Yes.
you did the karate thing,
Yes.
and then you joined the gym.
Yes.
Someone saw you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You spoke to someone.
Yes.
And that's how you got into this
Yeah.
program,
Yes.
if I am correct.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly, Shane.
That's powerful because,
So-
like, I agree with you, like, fully. Because the thing is, you need to be present. Also, you need to recognize what is happening with you, man. You know, because at some points you can be feeling sorry for yourself. Yes, I now had to move to Khayelitsha.
Yes.
We now living in this circle. We
Yes.
now, you know, and then you default to those
Yeah.
things that make you forget it.
Yes.
You know, you don't want to think about this, so you, you sink into the things that make you feel better.
Yes.
You know, and you very well said, you could have gone down that much deeper, you know, and even maybe if you stayed in the Mitchell's Plain context, it would have even taken you down a completely
Exactly.
different path.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But being able to recognize that you being taken out from one situation to another,
Yes.
even though it seems like it was a worse situation, was actually a better move for you, because you know God was putting you into these places that was building you for a greater story later on. You know what I'm saying? And not only do you recognize that, but you're using it, man. You're using that to now
touch.
empower and to make a difference in
Yes.
others' lives.
Yes.
So I applaud you for
Nah,
that.
kudos,
man.
bro.
Yeah,
Kudos to
really,
you.
for real, for real.
Because I mean, like
Yeah.
I was telling you, we can talk here and we've gone
Yeah.
through things, but I mean, if you look at what you've gone through, and,
Yeah.
and today
Yes.
you're working on the ground
Yes.
with the kids. I mean, we can only commend you. I mean,
Yeah.
for doing that work,
Yeah.
because these are the type of people we need. I mean, we all can't. We all have different talents
Yes.
and skills, but how you are able to connect,
Yes.
you know, we might not be able to.
Yeah.
You know.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's that like in the previous podcast
Yeah.
that we have, one of the people mentioned that in order for you to teach someone in the context
You
of,
gotta
of,
reach
of
someone.
teaching, you need to first reach them.
Yes.
And reaching them means breaking down a lot of barriers to get to them. And the benefit that you have is that that reach is there already, because like you literally can identify, you
Yes.
know? And in some cases, it's even, your story is even more deeper and more heart-wrenching, you know, in a way. So being able to just connect on the level of somebody else is something that is so important, man, because people need to know that others understand what they're going through,
Yes.
and that there's a way forward.
Yes.
You know, you don't have to go down a dark path.
Yes.
There's light,
Yes.
and there's great light. You know, if you want it to be. I mean, I was so inspired. You recently went to Rwanda through
Yes.
your organization as
Yes.
well, and I mean, maybe you'll tell us a bit more about that. But yeah, it's amazing to see the places that you are getting to see, the things that you are getting to do. So maybe I know I don't think we touched on it yet, but do you want to tell us more about the organization?
Yeah, the organization.
Yes.
Yeah. Because we say the organization,
But we don't know. Yeah.
but what does your organization do, or
Yes.
what's its mission?
Yeah.
Thank
You
you.
know?
Before I start there, I just wanted to comment on what you've mentioned, Graham. I think it's easy for a young person to feel that, look, what society is saying out there, that the generation now is a lost generation.
Yeah.
It's easy for them to just to fall into that trap, you know. But again, it's for you as what you do out of it, man. What you make out of your circumstances. And for you as a young person is it can be anyone, you know, just share your story, you know, and you never know with who that person that you're sharing your story to and what impact that person will have in your life, you know. And sometimes conversations is so powerful when we have conversations with each other, you know, and that's sometimes people's lives change there. So don't feel that it's only you that's going through the situation. There's others, because when I was young, I felt that, why is all this stuff happening to me? But when I listened to other people, I was like, whoa, look at it, I've got a bitchy
And
better
that was
off.
comforting.
Yes, you know, I'm a bitchy better off than you.
Yes.
But look at you, you know, you're not letting that determine who you are. You're not
Yes.
letting that break you down.
Yeah.
You are still wanting to be someone. You still have a purpose and a vision for yourself. So I would like to recommend this and to encourage young
People's
people
gotta
out
be
there.
more open
Yes.
and just, you know, chat about
yes.
things
Yeah.
that bothers
Exactly.
them.
Yes.
And if there were issues and challenges they had, how they overcame that. Because you never, like you said, you never know who you're talking to.
Yes.
Because let's face it, we're different, and some people are stronger than others in dealing with issues. And that's why we got to be here to support each other.
Exactly.
Yeah, understand what I'm saying. And then, like you were saying, the lost generation, it's just a different generation in today's life. We had to, back in the day, dig for our tools and the resources to get somewhere. Generation today, the resources are there. They might just not know how to tap into it. You understand? So we're not going to stand here and say, we had it harder and they have it easier. Because the things that was easy for us might be hard for them. And that was hard for us could be easy for them. So it's just different. I mean, life shifts. It's always evolving. You understand? And luckily for us in our generation, the resilience, our brain, we got calloused with our brain. It was a hard compass on the way we grew up, because like I was mentioning, we had to walk to the libraries. Now the kids can Google. So it's maybe us just, as a prior generation, just to sometimes guide, be a little bit more patient.
With them.
Because they're a bit different.
You need to learn to understand them and reach them on their level, because it is different. And sometimes for us it's hard to understand, because people are like, you got to do something, you must just get it done, and if you don't get it done, then you fall by the wayside. And that's the reality. So some of us made it, some of us didn't make it, because there wasn't a culture of, you know what, let's understand where you are and let's help you up and lift you up and let's move forward. So you have this big system where you have those who got through it and those who didn't. Because we can talk about a lot of people in our lives that didn't make it, that got lost along the way, that got caught up into drugs, that got caught up into gangsterism, and they lost their lives through that. Whereas then you get the other extreme. Oh no, this person made it through. They got through it. They have a successful career. They have a nice house. They have all these. You got these things. People from the same school. The one made it. The other one totally didn't make it.
Because we're different.
We're different. And the thing is, but the generation today is different, because they are like saying, no man, they very, like I was, I don't know if I mentioned, but let me mention it again. So we have nephews that are similar ages. And it was yesterday at this time where they got together and they were like, we brought them together in a place because there was a thing happening. And they quite,
they're both
they're very introverted kids, but it's a story of a lot of their generation today. I was making a joke with my nephew because he got like this hair, and I came to pick him up at the school one day, and I'm like looking for him, and all the kids have this hair, and I'm like, where is he? I can't see him. But but what was interesting about Jordan and Riley is that the two of them were walking somewhere and then they were chatting. And Darren, my wife, was saying to me, what are they chatting about? Because they don't talk. But I just think it's
they're connected.
For me, it was a symbol of their generation. They are different, and we need to try to reach them on a different level. That's actually the point of it.
Because if you look at it, how we had to find out information, we had to chat to each other to find out what time. Now everybody can get onto the internet and they can find out information. So I feel people don't talk as much in today's life. So it's more of a lonely type of life.
It is isolated.
Actually, that's what I was looking for. More isolated. So it's more of, listen, we gotta maybe one-on-one. You understand? Because this kid is not gonna open up. Whereas back in the day,
you had to be a part of it if you wanted to.
So I mean, it's just a different generation.
Exactly.
Like I was also in our previous podcast. You'll hear Mitchell's Plain's not the same anymore. What's the other place? Bell's not the same. But okay, now Belva isn't the same. We all know why. I'm not going there. But a place will remain the same. It's the people
inside of
in there. But we're always evolving type of people. Due to what is out there.
Absolutely.
So that shapes us.
Exactly.
You understand? So yeah, but anyway, tell us about your program
Yeah.
and how it manifests whatever it does.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Awesome,
saying?
yeah.
Tell us.
So okay, thank you. So basically, I work for an organization called Gold Youth, and my role in the organization is I'm managing the Western Cape. So my role is I'm the field coordinator for the organization, and what I do, I make sure that all operations and the Western Cape is it's well looked care after.
Yeah.
So from our schools that we work in, I manage the other organizations that we work with, even the government on the education sector, where I engage with the local Western Cape education government, and speaking about how we can then improve and build that partnership up, where we can then benefit that we can benefit our young people and impact our young people in the communities that we work in.
Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome, man.
So that's what we do. So Gold is a youth organization. We specifically do youth development. Also, we call it peer education, and that's what we specialize in. Then the word Gold stands for Generation of Leaders Discovered, meaning Gold is that generation of that is discovering that leaders, because they are our future leaders. Those young people will be the next presidents.
We leave legacies. Like, gotta love the legacy.
Yes. So we're giving back, and shaping their future, but not telling them what to do, but guiding them, to say, here's options. You choose, if we say the matrix, the red or the blue pill, So basically, so that's what we do in the Western Cape. We cover a number of areas. We cover Danun, we cover Kraaifontein, Paul, and George. So I will oversee that. We also, the organization is also in other provinces like KZN, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, and the Free State. And then we're also in Rwanda, Botswana, Zimbabwe, Zambia, and also South Africa. So the organization is very big. So that's basically what we do. We specifically focus on life orientation and life skills. And we also do what we call academic support, where we focus on pure maths and English. On pure match, we focus. Yes. Because that's the subjects basically that they need to pass. It's they call it. It's their prime subjects. That without that two subjects, you won't proceed.
You can't get into university.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
Yes. As English is also a universal language. And in the communities that we work with is in Paul, we're mostly in a colored community, but in the other three areas in George, it's one colored school and two black schools, or two schools in the black community. Kraaifontein, it's in Wallerstein in Bloekomбos, and then in Danun, it is specifically in Danun and in Jouslovo. So that's where we work. We also have another organization that we're partnering up with in Houtby, in Mandela Park, or Mandela, the community that's called Mandela. But they also doing our program. So we've got two entities of our program. We've got our D program. And that's what we are doing as an organization is we implement a program where it starts from grade 9 and then we move over to a grade 9, 10, 11 and 12. So they've got a track system, a junior peer educator in grade 9, a senior peer educator in grade 10, a mentor peer educator in grade 11 and a lead peer educator in grade 12. But what our program just doesn't focus, we just don't focus on when they're in school. Because what we've picked up is if you work with young people and you just focus on the academic journey. What about what happens after when they become young adults? So it's the same concept of when you walk up a mountain with a group of people and you leave the people, you've reached your destination. You want to reach the mountain, the peak of the mountain, right? But what about the journey down? And that's what we said then. We created the Gold Grads program where we say all our peer educators then that comes through a program will be part of our alumni program, and they will be then we call them Gold Graduates, where we then support them with business opportunities if they're business minded, where we then support them with if they want to further their education. We as the organization support and help them look for tertiaries, scholarships, learnerships, and also if they want to take a gap year that they normally call it now, and they want to look for a job opportunity. We either employ them ourselves or we look for jobs, that's out there for them.
That's awesome because like I love that, that there are people within the communities that are actually trying to uplift the community, because I mean, you got a lot of information, like you were saying the Noon was one of the areas, for example. So we all know, like in the Western Cape Town, you'll know where the Noon is, right?
Yes.
So you're driving on the N7 there on the one side, you see the Noon there.
Yes.
And I mean, I remember seeing a sort of a content creator that did this whole story on the Noon and like took us into the deep and how the people are living, and also shared some positivity and all that. And it's one thing to see, right? To because we know when we drive past, we can most now see it's not great, right? But being able to be inside the community and not only be there, but actually do something that's making a real difference to uplift the community out of there is so important, because you know, the young people need to have things that are going to inspire them, that are going to speak to them in a different tone and a different language, that's not going to keep them in the same cycle, you know, because that's really, really important. And I mean, that's what we feel strongly about, is how do you take a narrative that changes the stereotype? Because that's important. Like for me, Mitchell's Plain has stereotypes, right? I'm from Mitchell's Plain. I'm from the community. I would like to be the example. Like, no, if I tell someone I'm from Mitchell's Plain, I want them to think, Yisika knows gangsters, or he was a gangster, or he had some problems with substance abuse, because those are the stereotypes.
Exactly.
But I want to be able to say, you know what, when people think of Mitchell's Plain, think of me. Think of someone else. When people think of Khayelitsha, think of you. Or when people think of whatever, you know, being able to be a representation that changes the narrative is very important, because that's how young people will see different examples and role models that's going to push them out into more for themselves. You know what I'm saying? So applaud that.
So if I was a school and I see a greater need or a great need in my school, how do we get on board with a program like this, or you know, how do we get the ball rolling, you know, for something like this to happen at our school, for teachers or principals watching this? What steps do we take?
Thank you for that question. I think for anyone that would like to engage and maybe want to have a program similar as Gold within their schools, firstly we work in partnership with the Western Cape Education Department, and they will then identify also which schools, you know, do they feel that needs the support. You know, one thing that I've mentioned was we are more in the city areas. If you hear, the George is also known as more of a, you know, inner city in that concept, you know. But they also spoke about what about the small farm areas, you know, where there's a school where there is a need for the program, because the challenges that the youth is facing there, it's a lot, you know. But because of there's only so much we can do as an organization.
Resources is limited.
Also, and our program also determined by funding. You know, so what we do have, as I've mentioned, we have a deep and a wide. So for us, for anyone that would like to partner up with Gold, you know, they can then definitely just Google Gold Youth, and Gold's information is there. We have 8 districts in the Western Cape District Department. Our plan is to have a footprint in all 8. You know, we currently only in 4 of that 8 districts. So the only way we can, as an organization, we can reach the masses of the young people, because we also have audacious goals, you know, to see a million, you know, 10 million young people, you know, reached in Africa, you know, by the program. But we cannot do that alone. You know, we need support of other organizations that has the similar program, that would like to, you know, adopt and implement the program in their.
So if there are programs that is currently running, they can make contact with you. Because remember, some programs has backing, some doesn't. But those that doesn't but has a drive, and if they had backing, they could make also inroads. So I would say, I mean, if there's any organization or any donor that's trying to, you know, make a difference, but don't know how, they're needing a vehicle to drive their difference that they want to make, you know, send us a message, or, you know, drop your information on a comment, and then we will get it back to you,
Yes.
and you guys can take it from there.
Yes.
100%.
But yes, your work is phenomenal.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
You know, there's passion.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a job,
Yes.
but then there's passion.
Yes.
And I think your passion comes first.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I can see it brings joy
Yes.
to your life, and obviously tells about your story that you've been through,
Yes.
and you want to give hope, and you want to bring light into lives of the youth out
Yes.
there. That there is a good story at the end of the day.
Yes.
But anyway, so I
100%.
just thought, so
Yeah, no, I'm just like you saying, Shane. I'm really inspired by that, and like you were saying, now it's not just a job, because it comes across that is more than that.
Yes.
And I feel like your story, your background, your passion
Yes.
brought you to this job, so to speak.
Yes.
But it fully aligns with
Yes.
who you are and with how you want to make a
Yes.
change and add value to the
Yes.
world and to other youth that are out there. So it's just incredible how sometimes those things just line up
Yes.
in the way that they're supposed to.
Yes.
So really inspired by that, and I think, like Shane said, if there's people that want to get involved, because you guys are in 4 districts in the Western Cape, but
Yes.
there are 8, and those limitations exist because, like with all things, resources, manpower, funding,
Yes.
etc. These are critical things that are required to make it happen.
Yes.
And I love that there's 2 options almost available. When you said the deep and the wide, so the deep is what you guys are fully
Yes.
involved in, and then the wide is something that people can actually use your
Yes.
resources, if I understood
Yes.
this correctly,
Yes.
which is a big thing, because sometimes people don't know that there are resources out there. Young people don't even know that there are maybe resources out there that they can even tap into, that could assist them, that could aid them. So I think it's super important to be aware of what's available to you, and how those things can be almost repurposed in a way that somebody else might be able to say, okay, let me go to Google, to Goal's site, let me see what they have available, and let me see how I can take this.
Yes.
Maybe as a community worker doing something in education, or community worker doing something in life orientation.
Yes.
And I just want to do something a little bit different here with the kids. They can actually find those things and then repurpose it and use it,
Exactly.
and that's awesome. So really applaud you guys for that. And so I actually, I think what a good way for us to land the plane, if you want to call it that, is Anthony, earlier on, before we started recording, you told us a little bit of a story around your name. And I thought it was really something interesting. So I think that's a good place for us to go home with. So what are your thoughts? Do you want to tell us about your name story? Yeah.
So yeah, thanks again, Graham. So when I was born, my grandfather was him, and my grandmother played a part in raising me up.
Yeah.
So at that time, he was still in prison.
Okay.
When my mom gave birth to me, and then my mom and my grandmother went to go visit him, and they explained to him, you've got a grandson now, congratulating him about, you've got a grandson. And then they said to him, that my name is gonna be Antonio.
Yeah.
And then he said no. He didn't want a sissy name. He said it's a sissy name, Antonio. Doesn't sound, right? He wants to give his name. The name is gonna be, he said, it's gonna be Anthony, because it's got more firm meaning to it,
But listen, if I remember correctly, you said you did ballroom, huh?
Yes.
Those tight pants and those shoes with the heels. Did he get to watch you?
No. So I remember Antonio Banderas was in a movie, to do what ballroom, strictly, I think, Shall We Dance?
Zara.
So no, so yeah, I think with the division of or the separation between, I think I was 6-7 years old when my grandmother and my grandfather divorced.
Okay.
So there was a lot of separation between us. So he didn't really play a big role. He wasn't there a lot in my life.
Yeah, after
You know,
that.
because he also had other children. Then,
Okay.
you know, that
Okay.
he
So,
also then they was about 4 or 5 younger than me.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's the
Yeah,
reason. So
yeah.
unfortunately, he wasn't
Oh,
there.
yeah,
Then he
so-
could have just said Antonio. He's coming through.
But I think it's really great that you know, after being named initially Antonio by your mom and then having it become Anthony, and I mean we understand sort of where that mindset was back in
Yes.
that day, because things were very different back then.
It's a little bit closed off. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
people were trended to think a certain way.
Yes.
And,
And that's how it went, you know. But it's I think it's sort of poetic in a way that you then named your son Antonio. Still honoring that idea that was your name, and he's an extension of you. So being able to give that to him in a different mindset on it is actually quite cool to see how the generations can progress from there. You know, so Anthony, thank you so much for joining us today. You know, I've been really inspired, and I mean something that you know I haven't mentioned yet, but I mean Anthony's family of me. That's why I know him for so many years, for his whole life, is because he's actually my cousin's son.
Yes.
You know, so I'm so taken by this opportunity to hear from you, because even as being family, we don't really always know the depths of our own stories within our families.
Those challenges.
So I'm really inspired by what I've heard today. I mean, I knew the highlights, but you gave real deep context today, and it makes me understand you so much better. And I really believe that as much as I've been inspired, others will be inspired by your story as well. And just continue to do the things that you do to make a difference, because it's so much needed, especially in our communities, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So thank you for that. Yeah.
No, and like Graham was just saying, what an inspiration.
Yeah.
I mean, you gave your story, and you're a guy from the community, working in the community, and you got to commend yourself for that.
Yeah.
Or will commend you. You're quite humble. And thank you for what you're doing and what you're going to continue doing.
Yeah.
And all the best going forward.
Yeah.
And put yourself also first.
Yes.
Because remember, you need strength to keep doing what you need to do. And like I mentioned earlier, God has changed your life, and He's done wonders in your life to create thousands of differences out there, changing other people's lives with the program that you're working in. And your example to your family and your kids, and all the best. And guys, like we mentioned earlier, if you guys are in the program, or if you want to donate towards his program or learn a little bit more about it, please make contact. I mean, message us on YouTube or this platform that you can, and then we'll get that relevant information to him. But yeah, thanks again.
Thanks, Anthony, man.
Thank
Any last word from you?
Firstly, I wanted to say thank you for this opportunity that you guys given me just to share my story. You know, it's very scarce that we do share our life stories, and I hope that my story today, whoever's viewing this, you know, that it changed at least just one person's lives. For me, that's a world of change. And for all the young people, even in just not young people, but anyone watching this, you know, for me, I didn't let my circumstances determine who I will be. You know, I still have a lot of dreams and visions for myself, for my kids. We've got our goals, we've got our plans set it out. You know, continue with it. Dream big. You know, don't let anyone break your spirit or determine, or what anyone says that determines who you're gonna be one day in life. Let you be you, and you the only one that can make that happen. You know, by putting by taking stepping stones, you know, to be the person that you want to be. Circumstances doesn't determine anyone's future. You determine your own future. But thank you.
Fantastic, man. Thanks, Anthony,
Awesome.
man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. It was a good session.
Yeah,
And I hope you guys enjoyed it.
be lekker.
Until next time, be lekker. Don't be a chop. See you guys until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.